The music from the stage continued softly, but the guests had stopped paying attention to the performance. All eyes were now on the quiet woman standing in front of one of the most powerful families in the Korean entertainment industry. Min Jae's mother still kept her head slightly bowed, her hands nervously clasped together. She had not planned to speak. She had not come to embarrass anyone. But the tension in the room had become so heavy that her heart could no longer stay silent. Yuna's father looked at her carefully. He was a man used to control, status, and influence. People normally bowed to him, not the other way around. Yet the sincerity in this woman's trembling voice carried something he had not expected. Honesty. Behind him, some of his relatives whispered uncomfortably. But he raised a hand, signaling them to stay quiet. Slowly, he stepped forward. Min Jae's mother lifted her head slightly, surprised. For a moment their eyes met. Then something unexpected happened. Yuna's father bowed back. It was not a deep bow, but it was enough to shock almost everyone watching. "You are not taking our daughter away," he said calmly. "She chose your son. And if she trusts him, then perhaps we should learn to trust him too." A quiet wave of surprise moved through the hall. At the same time, the massive shadow creature behind the guests shrank slightly, its smoky body twisting in frustration. The energy it had been feeding on was beginning to disappear. Yuna noticed immediately. While dancing, she whispered to one of her teammates beside her. "It's weakening." The dancer nodded while continuing the choreography. "Then we finish it." The music suddenly intensified. The performance that the guests believed was simply a K-pop stage transformed into something far more powerful. The dancers moved faster, their steps striking the floor in perfect rhythm. Invisible streams of glowing light began forming around them like spinning ribbons. But the demon was not ready to disappear yet. With a furious roar that only the hunters could hear, it lunged forward, stretching its long shadow arms toward the stage. The chandeliers rattled violently now, and several guests gasped as glasses trembled on the tables. "What's happening?" someone whispered. "It feels like an earthquake." But before panic could spread, Yuna spun gracefully in the center of the stage. Her final movement released a brilliant wave of energy that cut through the darkness. The demon staggered back, wounded. Still, it tried to gather strength again by reaching toward the crowd. Yet something had changed in the room. The atmosphere was different now. Where there had been pride and judgment before, people were beginning to feel something else. Understanding. Yuna's mother walked slowly toward Min Jae's parents. Her elegant dress brushed softly against the marble floor as she approached them with a gentle smile. "You must have worked very hard to raise such a good son," she said kindly. Min Jae's father looked stunned. "We only taught him to be honest," he replied quietly. Around them, the guests began relaxing. Conversations softened. Some people even laughed lightly at how nervous everyone had been earlier. Each moment of warmth weakened the shadow creature even more. On stage, the demon hunters felt the change like sunlight breaking through clouds. "It's almost gone," one dancer whispered. Yuna nodded. She turned gracefully, lifting her arms in one final movement that looked like part of the performance to the audience but carried the power of a finishing strike. A brilliant flash of light burst through the hall. For a split second, the demon's true form appeared behind the guests, a twisted creature made of smoke, red eyes burning with hatred. Then it shattered. The darkness dissolved into nothing. The cold air vanished. The chandeliers stopped shaking. To the guests, it felt like the strange tension in the room had simply lifted. Some even applauded, thinking the dramatic lighting and effects were part of the show. That performance was incredible. I've never seen choreography like that. The dancers finished their routine and bowed as if nothing unusual had happened. But Yuna and her team exchanged small relieved smiles. The battle was over. And the wedding could finally continue. Moments later, the host cheerfully returned to the stage. "Now, ladies and gentlemen," he announced with excitement, "let us begin the wedding ceremony." Soft romantic music filled the hall again. Yuna stepped down from the stage and walked toward Min-jae. Her white dress flowed behind her like gentle clouds, and her eyes shone with quiet emotion. Min-jae looked at her with a warm smile. "You saved the wedding," he whispered playfully. Yuna laughed softly. "We saved the wedding." They stood together at the altar while the officiant prepared to begin. Both families now sat closer than before. The earlier distance between them had faded. Min-jae's younger sister was shyly talking with one of Yuna's cousins about K-pop songs. Their laughter drifted softly through the hall. Yuna's father glanced toward Min-jae's parents again. This time, instead of distant politeness, there was genuine respect in his eyes. Sometimes pride builds invisible walls between people. But tonight, those walls had quietly broken down. The officiant smiled warmly at the couple. "Marriage is not simply the union of two people," he said gently. "It is the joining of two families, two worlds, and two journeys becoming one." Yuna looked at Min-jae. Memories flashed through her mind, their first meeting at his small noodle shop, the nights they had secretly fought demons together, the quiet moments where he had supported her when the fame and pressure of her career became overwhelming. He had never cared about her celebrity status. To him, she was simply Yuna. The girl who loved late-night street food and quiet walks along the river. The girl who secretly protected the city. Min-jae took her hands. His voice was steady but filled with emotion. "I don't have fame or great wealth," he said softly. "But I promise that no matter what happens, I will always stand beside you." Yuna's eyes filled with tears. "And I promise," she replied, "that even when darkness appears, we will face it together." The guests smiled warmly as the couple exchanged their rings. Outside the hall, the city lights of Seoul continued to shine across the night sky. Inside, the atmosphere was now peaceful and joyful. Because tonight had proven something important. A family's worth is not measured by money. Love cannot be ranked by status. And sometimes the strongest power in the world is not fame, strength, or magic. Sometimes it is simply kindness that turns strangers into family. As Yuna and Min-jae shared their first kiss as husband and wife, applause filled the hall. The demon hunters had won their battle. But more importantly, two very different families had learned something far more powerful than victory. They had learned how to choose love over pride. And somewhere in the quiet shadows of the city, the darkness that once fed on division had grown a little weaker, because of one wedding that brought two worlds together. Sparkles. The hall sparkled with crystal chandeliers, luxury cars filled the parking lot, and cameras flashed non-stop. This was the wedding of Yuna, daughter of one of Korea's richest entertainment families. Her groom, Min-jae, came from the opposite world, a poor but kind young man whose family owned a tiny noodle shop in a quiet neighborhood. From the moment Min-jae's family stepped into the hall, the whispers began. "Look at their clothes. They don't belong here. How could someone like him marry into that family?" Yuna's wealthy relatives watched them with cold eyes, embarrassed by the humble people standing among their designer suits and diamond jewelry. Min-jae's mother quietly held her purse, feeling small in a place where everything looked more expensive than their entire house. But none of them knew the real secret behind this marriage. Yuna wasn't just a famous K-pop idol. She was also a demon hunter. For years, Yuna and her hidden team of K-pop performers secretly protected the city from dark spirits that fed on human jealousy, pride, and hatred. And tonight, those demons had gathered in the wedding hall, attracted by the tension between the two families. As the ceremony began, the lights flickered. A cold wind swept